Hello everyone, welcome to my channel about writing stuff. My name is Camille and today we are talking about characters, kind of. This is going to be sort of a discussion video. It's very off the cuff, but I was racking my brain for something to talk about in this week's vlog, and a couple weeks ago, a writer friend of mine, Martin McConnell, who has his own YouTube channel that I will link down below, suggested that I do a video on the madness of creating characters. And I thought I'd take this concept and kind of veer a little bit to the right. The story that I'm writing now is a multi-POV story with all different types of people. And the main struggle I've had with this multiple point of view story is, and when I mean multiple point of view, I mean I have several throwaway point of views where, you know, one character will have one chapter, etc. So I have multiple perspectives, and the big problem with this multiple POV story is really nailing down the voice for each character. It's really making these different point of views come across as distinct, and having this character's motivations and likes and desires really color their narrative. Now, all of these points of views are in third person, but it's a close third person where, you know, if I'm in one person's point of view, I won't necessarily say her mother, but I would say mother. That kind of thing, where it's a really close third person point of view. But like I said, the problem that I was having with this was, you know, all of these voices were coming across very flat. And it really came down to this concept of, you know, when I build my character guides, I know the surface level stuff. I know what this character's hobbies are, you know, a little bit about their backstory, some things that they've been through, maybe their favorite color or like a secret that they have and things like this. But the voice doesn't really come through with facts and notes. The voice really comes through with all of these other things that really culminate like the madness of creating characters that Martin was talking about, where it's like not only character guides and character sketches, but it's walking the character through a scene, writing short stories about this character, writing little sample pages of backstory, things that have happened to them, etc. So when it really comes down to, and you know, the one thing that feedback-wise that I hear a lot from agents and editors is that there needs to be a voice to these characters that really draws them through the story. And when you're writing fantasy in particular, I think that voice can easily get lost if you're focusing too much on things like setting the scene, world building, explaining how the magic works. But more than that in fantasy, there's this idea of the subtle nuance. You know, you created this whole world and you really don't want to just throw it at the reader. You don't want to say, you know, this is the magic that came from this, and it started from here, and this is how it works, and these are all the rules. And where the subtle nuance comes in is introducing these things as they're relevant to the story, yada, yada, yada. But when you do that, it makes it almost impersonal to the character. So, I mean, this, like I said, this video is totally off the cuff, but for example, you're writing a scene where, you know, this character is first introduced to the magic, or more importantly, the character already is familiar with the magic. It's the first scene where the reader is seeing the magic. Instead of getting into like the history and how it works and the rules and stuff, a great way to bring through that character voice is to perhaps relate the current scene to a memory. Now, I don't mean to put in the flashback, because like, especially opening pages, flashbacks are very cliche and it pulls the reader out. But, you know, if you have a character who is, you know, re-experiencing the magic in a scene and they're already aware of it and they need to, I guess, present these foreign ideas to the reader in a way that's understandable and that is easily comprehended, you can have that character sort of relate what's happening in the scene to the first time they use the magic. And maybe the first time they use the magic, they use it with someone that they cared about, or they used it in a place that evoked a lot of emotion for them, or it occurred in a time where this character was going through some sort of identity change. And that's what we mean by voice. It is so hard to nail down character voice when you don't know all these things about the character, but it's this. As people, we have a constant stream, we have a constant voice in our head when we're out doing things. And I've talked about this before in my character voice video, but, you know, let's say I'm sitting down to paint. You know, for me, that's very normal. I'm used to it, I'm very familiar, and I feel almost at home with like a paintbrush in my hand. But if someone was reading my story in a book, you know, it's, how would I describe painting? You know, how would I describe the paint? I would know the particular terms, but if I were describing it to someone else, I might dumb it down so that they could understand. I would tie in, you know, the smell of painting reminds me of like that first time I painted, or just things like this, like different techniques. I might remember, you know, if I'm using a certain technique in a painting, I might remember where I learned that technique from, you know, who the instructor was, exactly what they were painting at that time where I learned that technique. Things like this. And it's really getting inside of how your own brain works, how your own stream of consciousness works, and understanding that when you are in a particular moment in your own life, it's not just you in that moment, it's you and your baggage and your memories, people you've interacted with, things you're currently curious about, things you're currently learning, etc. And yeah, sorry, my mind's all over the place because like I said, it's totally off the cuff video. But yeah, so multiple POV stories. That's one really great way to sort of nail down how character voice works, how to make it come up. Another thing too for me is when I really am trying to nail down character voice, you know, I can't just go into writing their scene. I have to sort of take a step back and write other scenes first that never actually make it into the story. And that's where it comes to like writing short stories with your character, interacting with weird things. In one of Brandon Sanderson's lecture video things, he talks about this idea of put a character in a scene where they're walking through a marketplace. What do they notice? What smells do they notice? What things trigger memories? What things make them uneasy? What things make them angry? Stuff like this. And I've talked about this before in character videos too, but me walking through a marketplace, I would notice something different than, you know, like an older gentleman who's a car salesman, etc. But yeah, basically the story that I'm writing now, you know, the first scene is I'm opening with a throwaway point of view character who's observing my main character. And, you know, I really needed to nail down voice for this sort of idea because it's, you know, rarely do people open a story with a throwaway point of view character. It's kind of cliche. It doesn't, you know, draw the character or the reader in right away because we're not in the main character's head from the get-go. But I needed to do this to make the story work the way that I want it to work. And the problem is that, you know, this throwaway point of view character is a person. She has a life of her own. She has wants and desires and blah, blah, blah. And I really needed to show, and I really needed her voice to color this narrative to make it work because she hates my main character basically and is observing my main character. But I didn't want it to make it just about the main character because it's from this other person's point of view, this other whole person with a backstory and motives and wants and likes and hobbies and things like this. So basically what I'm saying is if you have a point of view character, don't make them flat, especially if this point of view character is only in the story to observe the main characters or what's going on. And to understand that if you do these sorts of things, if you have throwaway point of view characters or you have a character's point of view just to add intrigue or an outside observation of another character who's actually the main character or the main focus of the story, don't make this character flat. If you're giving a character point of view, they need to be fleshed out. They need to have their own voice, and that needs to color the narrative, and it really needs to shine through for multiple reasons. The first one is that if you don't, the reader will know what you're doing, basically, and you don't want that. You want it to feel organic. The second thing is that it just feels flat. It feels fake, and you want this character to feel real. And yeah, I hate doing off-the-cuff videos because I just kind of like tangent hard left and have no idea where I'm going. But yeah, my brain's always in this kind of fuzzy place when I'm starting a story because I have this ridiculous desire to know everything in my head, and it just doesn't work that way. And, you know, those first opening pages are hard because you don't know where to start or how to start or what information needs to be conveyed to the reader, and it's just all a jumble. But anyways, I want to talk about this idea of multiple point of views, how to get voice down, and it is madness. It is so madness. Like, I'm only 3 chapters into this manuscript, and I already have 3 different point of views, and there's so many characters, and I know I'm doing something stupid, but someone on Twitter told me, okay, not someone, but an editor that I greatly admire was doing this, like, at me, and I'll give you some, like, off-the-cuff fortune cookie writing advice. So I was like, okay, and she said, write that thing that scares you. Write the thing that is crazy and that is completely out of your comfort zone, and just do it. So I'm fucking doing it. And hey, you should do it too. That's your resource today. It's easy to get caught up in that one project. It's easy to get stuck finishing that project that you're not excited about simply for the fact of wanting to finish it. So I challenge all of you, once you're done with what you're currently working on, whether it's, you know, a first draft or your first pass revisions or your second draft or whatever, and like you're bored or you're just done with this project for now, put it aside and start working on that crazy, scary thing out of your comfort zone that's completely inappropriate or full of cliches or tropes that you love. You know, write that thing that you feel like you need permission to write or that you feel like would totally freak out your family. Do it, because it's so much fun and ridiculous, and there's so much craziness happening right now in my head, and I don't even know if I like this story yet. I don't know. I'm excited because it's crazy and probably never gonna get bought by anybody, but hey, if you love writing, you do what you gotta do. So that's my talk today. 12 minutes of nothing. So yeah, next week, you know, I'll probably talk about magic again. I've been just reeling about this magic system that I'm working on, so we're gonna fucking talk about magic. All right, I'll see you guys next week, but for now, you should be getting to know your fictional characters and writing stuff. Bye.